Okay, so the first question is two interval. Okay, so let's try to do it. So two interval are there. So here is like, so let's read the first question two interval. Little bit difficult question. Okay, little bit. So given the boundaries of two intervals, print the boundaries of their intersections. So you have given the boundaries of two interval. Let's suppose this is the interval that, okay, this is the first interval, okay, and this is the second interval. Can you tell me the what is the common point of both interval? This point and this point, yes or not? This is a common point for both. Can we say that like this is the intersection point of both interval? Yes or not?
huh.
Okay. So that's we have to find. Okay. So boundary means the two end of the interval which are starting number and ending number. Only one line contain two interval L1 R1. So there's a constraint are given. And the one thing that they have mentioned, the R1 is always greater than L1. R2 is always greater than L2. But they actually didn't mention that. Is that like L2 is less than L1 or not? Are they mentioned or not? No, no. Nothing
No.
related about. They mention only R1 L1, R2 L2. But they can't compare with L1 L2. Okay, so we have to consider this also case. Okay, because in here they did mention that the relation between L1 and L2. So let's try to understand the sample test case. Okay, the first sample test case is that 115. See that the L1 R1 is 115, L2 R2 is 5727. So can you tell me what is the intersection point in this question? What is the intersection point? Can you tell me?
Intersection points are R1,
L1
R1 and
L1
L2.
R1 is 115, L2 R2 is 527. Both of the intersection point. What is the intersection point? 5 is common for both.
L2.
15
Yes,
is common. 15 is
Yes.
common for both. So 5 and 15 is a intersection point. Yes or not?
Yes.
yes,
Intersection means like these boundary are mutual to both boundaries. Okay, are present in both boundaries. These 5 and 15 are present in both boundaries. Yes or not? So these are the intersection point. Now you understood the question. Let's try to understand second test case. Here, see that 2, 5, L1, R1 and 6 and 12 is L2, R2. See that? Is there any intersection point are there? Kya? Is there any intersection point? Is there any common point are there?
No.
So you have to write the -1. Okay. So let's try to understand all test cases. Let's figure out. Okay. There are possible that L1, this one, R1, this one. Okay. And we know that R1 is always greater than equal to L1. Yes or not? We know that.
Yes.
Okay. So let's consider this L1, R1. Let's fix this one. Let's try to figure out the test. Let's figure out the all cases of L2, R2. Okay. So they are possible that L2 is greater than L1. Yes or not? L2 is greater than L1. Is possible or
yes,
not?
Yes, possible.
This is one of the possible test case, like one of the possible cases.
Huh.
Okay. What is the second possible test case?
L2 is less than L1.
Let's try to like L2 is bigger than R1. Can I say that? Let's try to understand L2 is a between of L1 R1, the first test case. L2 is bigger than R1. Can I say that? L2 is bigger than R1, the second test case, like second cases. First
Huh.
case is L1 is in between L1, L2. In between L1 R1. The second is L2 is bigger than R1. Okay. What is the third? Here. L2 R2.
L2 is less than half
Less than R1
L1.
and R2 is between L1 R1. And is there any other cases? This one. L2 R2. R2 is less than L1. Okay. So we consider all cases. Okay. We consider all cases. Yes or not?
Yes, Baba.
That like you have to understand. This is the all cases that we are considered. Now you have to write the code. We have to understand like how should I write the code to consider all cases and you will pass all test cases. Okay. That is our task. So the first one, like understood this one. If this point are there, so definitely L2 is a common point and R1 is a common point. Yes or no? The answer is
Yes,
L2
sir.
R1. Okay. So let's try to write it. Okay. Equation. We'll write every test case, every cases and see that what happened. Int L L1 R1 L2 R2. Okay. Seen L1 R1 L2 R2. So first test case is that if L2 is greater than equal to L1 and let's try to this case. If L2 is greater than equal to L1, okay? This case. If L2 is greater than equal to L1, this one. Now we have to consider the test case of this one. Like we have to figure out like L2 is in between L1 or R1 not. So here I have write if L2 is because is greater than equal to L1 is less than equal to R1. That means like our L2 is in between of L1 and R1. Yes or not? In this case.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have to consider another point that is R2. Is it possible na if I write this code like L2 or R2 something like that? There possible that R2 is smaller than R1. Yes or not? R2 is smaller than R1
Huh.
and there's possible that R2 is greater than R1, greater equal to
Huh.
R1. So I have to write this one. If R2 is less than R1, okay, then what would the answer tell me? Like what will the answer? L2 and R2.
Okay.
Like I'll tell you like how is it okay. Let's understand this L1 are there, this R1 are there. And I'll figure out the first test case is L2 is greater than equal to L1. That means yeah, L2
L2
is
is
something
in
like that
between
here. Tell me like
L1
L2 is
and
here.
R.
It can be
Yes.
possible that L2 here, L2 here, L2 here because it is greater than equal to L1. Okay.
In between the line.
Now now the question is like if I say L2 is here, let's suppose L2 is here. I'm asking that if L2 is less than equal to R1 or not. Okay. If is less than equal to R1, that means it can be possible here, 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 here. Yes or not? Because this is less than equal to R1. Okay.
जी भैया.
Let's understood. And then I'm asking that if it's possible R2 is less than R1. It means R2, let's suppose R2 is less than R1. So this is the one of the possible case. R2 is less than R1.
जी.
So this is a common point. This is an intersection point. So answer
L2 and
is
R2.
L2 R2. Yes or not?
हाँ.
But if R2 is greater than R1, think about like if is R2 greater than R1. So what would the
Then
answer?
R1. L2 R1.
Okay. So now just write it. Else see out L2
R1.
R1 and so let's try to figure out another case if L2 is greater than R1. If L2 if L2 let's suppose this R1, this is, if L2, R2, if L2 is greater than R1, what would the answer? Tell me.
There is no intersection point in between.
So it will -1.
-1.
So here see out -1. Okay. So let's try to another test case if L2 is smaller than L1. Okay. So another test case is that L1 R1, and let's try to it L2 is smaller than L1. It is smaller, is greater than, else means smaller than. So what will the output tell me? Is smaller. Definitely L1.
L1.
Okay. Now the
R2.
question is that there is a possible that R2 is greater than R1. Yes or not?
Yes.
This is one possible one. This is possible and R2 is in between L1 R1. In between. There's another possible R2 is less than R1. The three cases are there. Yes or not?
Yes.
So let's write all cases. Okay. So if R2 is greater than R1, so what greater than equal to R1? So what would the answer? See out L1, R1, and else if R2 is less than L1, R2 is less than L1, that means this case. What would the output?
It will return -1.
-1. So I'll write it. Okay. -1. See out -1 and else tell me this one if R2 is in between that. So what would the output?
L1 R2.
L2, L1 R2. Sorry, L1 R2. So here a else are case like whatever the case left is in between that. Okay. So we are not writing this case. Okay. See the else are okay. So L1 R2. Okay. Let's and do you understand the every cases? Did you get it? Like how is it?
Yes, baby.
The two intervals. Okay, I'm getting yes. Let's submit the code. Two intervals. Okay, so getting accepted. See that all of the cases that we are considered and we are getting accepted. Okay, so let's go into, let's mark it.